Something that we often need to do when we're programming in C is generating random numbers. And in the standard library header file, there is a function called rand that will return a random number. And all we have to do is type rand, and this will give us a random number. So just to make sure that it works, let's write a loop that will go from 0 to 10 and it'll print out 10 random numbers, one on each line. So we need our counter variable. While I is less than 10, I plus plus. And we are going to print out our random number, which will be an integer, and all we have to do is print out the return value from the rand function. That's it. Let's run this real quick and see what we get. And I made a small mistake. I need to put a new line at the end of this so that we can actually see the different numbers. There we have 41, 18, 4, 6, 7. They look pretty random. The only thing is that these are not true random numbers. They are pseudo-random numbers. It more or less has a list of numbers that it will spit out depending on the starting number that you give it, and that's based on the system time. And you won't really have to worry about that, but just important to note that these aren't completely random numbers. They're pretty much random, but not perfectly random. Alright, so sometimes you need the random numbers to be within a certain range. Let's say we're going to create a program that will create random dice rolls. So for dice rolls, we need the numbers to be between 1 and 6. And to get those numbers that we saw a minute ago all into a certain range and keeping them random, we need to use the modulo operator. And all we have to do is take the return value of this rand function and perform the modulo operation with, since we're doing dice, we have 6 possible combinations. We need modulo 6. So what this will do is it will divide the random number by 6, and it will take the remainder. And because we're dividing by 6, the remainder must be between 0 and 5. So all we have to do is take this expression here and add 1 to it, and we're guaranteed to get a number between 1 and 6. Alright, so now let's rerun this here and see if we get 10 random dice rolls. Recompile it and run it, and we get 6, 6, 5, 5, 6, 5, 1, 1, 5, 3. And that looks pretty random. Let's run it a couple more times. And again, we're getting the same numbers. Again, and again, and again. And that's because, as I said, they're not completely random numbers. And because we haven't specified what to start the sequence as, it's just using the default. We can actually make these more random if we include another library, which is the time.h library, which handles a lot of different time and just system time, dates, and stuff like that. And it's just time.h. And now we can give this rand function a better random number to work with, which will be the current system time, and I believe that this number is in milliseconds. So every time we run the program, the system time will be different, and we'll get a different random number to begin with. And the process of giving the rand function a random, or mostly random, starting point is called seeding. And there's a function called srand, and srand is for seeding, S for seed. And all we have to do is give this the default time, and in the time.h header library there is a time function, and all we have to do is give this the value of 0, which will give us the default system time, and this should seed our random function, and it should give us a better random number generator. So let's run this again and see if it's a bit more random. And apparently it's not more random. and I'm not totally sure why that is. And it probably means that I need to put this outside of our loop, because every time we're running the loop, it's just starting over again. Alright, so this should work. And now that looks a whole lot better. Now we have 5, 2, 1, 4, 2, 3, 6, 4, 1, 4. That looks completely random. Let's run this program again, and we get a completely different series of random numbers. And we have only values from 1 to 6. And every time we run it, we should get completely different results. And as you can see, we do. Alright, so this was a little bit complicated, mostly because I got a little bit confused. But we need the time.h library for our time function, which just generates basically the system time in milliseconds. And the srand function is for seeding, which gives this rand function here a better random number to begin with. And since the system time is always changing every time we run the program, every time we run it, it's going to give us a different list of random numbers. So basically, that's how you create random numbers in C. You use the rand function, and to get better runs, you use the seed and time functions. And it's really important, the modulo operation, because you almost always need random numbers within a certain range, such as with our dice program, 1 to 6, and oftentimes you'll need 1 to 100 and things like that. Well, I hope that this tutorial has helped you, and I'll see you again later.